You're listening to Becoming CEO, where we share our journeys as solo founders to becoming the CEO of seven-figure businesses.
And these are our behind-the-scenes conversations as we figure it out. And these are things that most people just aren't sharing.
Would you rather be rich and obscure or poor and famous?
Rich and obscure for sure.
Okay, better question. Pick two. Rich, poor, obscure, famous.
I mean, wait, what do you mean pick two? Like rich and...
Pick rich or poor and pick obscure or famous.
Rich and obscure.
Why?
Because I don't feel like I need to be like a public facing person. Like I'd rather just be... I don't think I would survive being famous, nor do I think I want what comes along with fame. Obviously, I don't have it, but I know people that are quote unquote more famous than me and that have some similar personalities. And they're like, some of the cons that they share, I'm like, I don't think I would be willing to sacrifice some of that just for fame.
For example?
Like getting stopped in the street, like anywhere you go, or in like public
That
places.
doesn't happen to you?
Very rarely. Like the one or two times that's ever happened was like I was checking out a new co-working space here in Denver, and one of the guys like pulled me aside. And he's like, "Dude, I watch your YouTube channel," and I was like, "Well, that's cool." And I felt really awkward. Like I didn't even know how to operate with that person. I was like, "Do you like it?" It was really socially awkward. I'm not like a normally socially awkward person, but like, I don't know. What do you do with that? I'm like, thank you. Like okay, thank you for tuning in. Like,
Can I tell you my quick story there?
Sure.
So for those who don't know, I live in Canada. And, a few years ago, we used to run ads more aggressively in both the US and Canada. Today, all our advertising is all in the US, so no one's stopping me in the streets in Canada. Okay. Because they don't.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just run ads outside of Denver, basically, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But back in the day, we used to spend a lot more on ads than we do today. Very aggressive and across North America. So I would get stopped. I would get spotted. It wasn't like a daily thing by any means, but the first time it happened was hilarious. I was at Best Buy on Black Friday trying to buy myself a big screen TV, as you do. Black Friday, right? And
what year is this? Why are you not buying online?
Yeah, no, this is pre-COVID, so this is probably like 2019, maybe 20.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. 20 would be after COVID, but something like that. Yeah, 2019 probably. And this guy kind of like very awkwardly like sidles up to me. He's like, "Hey, are you the guy on YouTube?" And I'm like, "Well, there's lots of people on YouTube. Yeah, I'm I'm probably one of them." He goes, "Oh, are you the guy that runs like something about consulting or something like that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I really like your ads, like your videos." I'm like,
"Yeah,
cool. So I'm gonna buy this TV now."
Right? Yeah.
And I was nice to the guy, right? I actually find it happens a lot more in like extended social circles. So I'll be like at a family wedding or something, and like the groom's brother will come up to me and be like, "Oh, I see you on LinkedIn all the time, blah, blah, blah." And like, I'll strike up a conversation. I get that a lot. By no means famous, but I do have these kind of awkward social interactions where people know me based on my kind of digital persona, and like they see the content on social media and then they make approaches. It definitely happens.
Right. Yeah, I think this topic for everyone listening kind of came from I was having a good conversation with a buddy of mine, and it kind of like wove between this like in our kind of sphere, coaching, consulting, this online creator economy, you know, when you put yourself out there and you create a lot of content, you sometimes have like micro influence inside of, the small sphere of the internet, corner of the internet that you exist in. And like in some cases, like some people, I mean, like part of the reference of this, the spark of the conversation came from the fact that this past Saturday, you know, at the time of recording this, Hormozy launched his book, and there were over 500,000 people registered with 250,000 plus people live watching on a Saturday morning for 90 minutes from all over the world. Like that is, I think there's already like it's a Guinness record of like largest live virtual event, book launch, whatever in history. And it's like the like that dude literally can't go anywhere without being seen, spotted, autograph, photo, sort of thing. And we were kind of talking about like that versus the guy who or gal who makes a ton of money that you would have never heard of, that like lives their own life just fine. And like we were kind of going back and forth on that. And one of the things that it kind of led to, which I actually think might be the more interesting piece of the conversation, is like, so what drives us, assuming you want to build this business and be known or even make a lot of money, I guess, to uh like achieve such high levels that you'd even be in a sphere where people might actually want to know who you are. And the conversation led to like the impact of like social media. Like obviously it's done a lot of great things for connecting people, but like he made the comment, he's like, I took social media off my phone and I had it off my phone for months and I felt better than ever. I'm back on social media thinking that I can control it. And, in the early stages, I'm like, oh, I got a handle on this now. Like, I'm not going to let it kind of take over the, like what I want and the feeling, like make me feeling like I have to achieve these bigger, higher, faster scale goals than what I typically feel like I want. And he's like, but lo and behold, it happens every single time. And I'm like, I feel the exact same way. Like I'll go through waves of having these things off my phone. And I'm like, I finally like, I hear my own voice. These are the things that are important to me. These are my values. These are the things that success, like what success looks like and feels like to me. And it's not the things that I see online that come with a lot of these accolades. You end up on, back on social media for any sort of time. And I'm like, man, like I feel this urge, like I'm supposed to or have to go way bigger than I'm going right now. And it creates this interesting pressure. And, so, and obviously you start to like I feel bad about myself. And he was just saying, he's like, but is that like where the pressure comes from? Like, is it literally just the fact that we're on social media? He's like, cause like, if you're not there, there's clearly not pressure. Like if you lived in the woods and never saw any of this stuff, like, would you not ever encounter this? And it just like kind of started this interesting conversation of like, it's so powerful for us and what we can do. And like my business would not be where it's at without the internet and these platforms. Yet at the same time, you spend enough time on it and it's like this drug, which obviously it's designed to be. And you now want these things, like you find yourself wanting things that you're like, do I really want this? Like, is this actually important? And it's almost difficult to decipher the difference.
Yeah, you got to be the dealer, not the junkie.
Totally. Anyway, so I was reading this book, Wanting, which we just finished, which is about mimetic desire, which is basically like everything we're talking about. Like as humans, the only thing we know is to desire something that other people have. And we have these models that you typically emulate. And like social media has put us in closer proximity to hundreds of thousands of people at once that we can now see as models versus historically before all of this was like, oh, I want to be like my dad. Like you only see so many people in the world that you model and you want to be like those people. But now you have, countless people that you could choose to model, and it kind of creates some interesting things. And so that it kind of led to like, man, like part of me is like, if I could live in the woods and like have a successful business that did not require me to have to do a YouTube video or, you know, put my face on an ad or something like that, that like, would that be great? Like, wouldn't that be cool? uh, what does that look like or feel like? Which you could argue is just equally another version of mimetic desire of wanting what someone else might have. But I don't know. What's your take? What's your take on all this?
Yeah, it's funny. I was having a similar conversation with somebody on my team the other day. I have like two competing desires, and I'm not sure which one's going to win. I actually actually do have a good hunch which one's going to win. But one desire is, I feel like I don't have enough of a platform. Not enough people know who I am. I don't
It's
have
true,
enough of
man.
a thought leadership stamp, and I don't mean fame. I mean influence. I have zero desire to get stopped in the street and sign autographs, like none whatsoever. I do have desire to be more widely respected in my market, in my relevant market, i.e., among people that can pay me money, right, and work with
And
us.
so is that purely the only reason? Like, that the financial impact that it has on the business, or are there other reasons why you crave to be perceived that way more than you are now?
Well, impossible question to answer because the ego is going to
Yeah.
run amok when you get your first taste of fame and significance, right? The ego is going to love it. You
Yeah.
think about the first time. Think about the first time somebody complimented you on your content. I love that video that you put up. The ego got
Yeah.
a real rush out of that, right? Or the first time somebody got in a sales call and said, "Man, I love your material. I want to work with you." Ego got a rush out of that. The first time a
Yeah.
client said, like, "This has been a fantastic experience. I really respect what you're doing." The
Yeah.
ego's getting all kinds of thrills there, right? So
Totally.
it's an impossible question to answer. Like logically, I want it for the financial impact, but not going to lie to you and say my ego doesn't like people respecting me. Obviously, my ego loves it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um, so on the one hand, like I have that desire. We tell our clients, we want you to go from being a wandering generality to a meaningful specific. And that's, I
Is
think,
that
what
from a
I
book?
desire. Yeah, it's from something. I don't know where it's from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just stole it, lock, stock, and
Yeah.
barrel without credit. So
Yeah. I was
that's what I
I'm like,
desire
that
more than
that
anything. I
sounds
don't want to
good.
be like the big, I don't want to be an Alex Hermosi or a Gary V, like big, huge guru. I don't have the temperament for it. Like I'm not on social media at all. I don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
use
I
it at all.
and I still to this day, I'm like so impressed by that. The
I
grass is
wouldn't
always
say much.
greener.
I have personal Instagram on my phone, but I don't follow anybody in business. It's all just like
Yeah.
other things. So I don't see any business stuff.
I don't have enough discipline for that.
So I have zero desire to be a big personality. I do have desire to have deeper influence among my relevant target markets. Let's put it that way. That's one desire. And then the competing desire, it's very similar to yours, is I would also just love to be a behind the scenes figure that builds businesses and uses other people as talking heads, right? And so,
Yeah, yeah.
big thing that we're talking about here, we had this conversation on the podcast not
Yeah.
too long ago, and we're making moves in this direction is solidifying partnerships with other thought leaders, experts, talking heads, if you will, and who have the expertise but don't have the scalability, right? Don't have that capability to scale, if you
Yeah.
will. And then, we run the business on the back end. They do, all the talking head stuff and all the thought leadership stuff and all the fulfillment stuff. And so that's also appealing because that's, more like the guy in the woods that runs a bunch of businesses, right? And doesn't have to
Yeah.
necessarily be the face of any of them.
Right.
Ultimately, I think the latter is a stronger desire, and ultimately, I think it's going to be both. I'm gonna continue for the foreseeable future to be the face of my business because that's what's working,
Totally.
and then also build other businesses where I'm not the face. And then what wins in the
Yeah.
long term, who knows?
Yeah. So I could easily hear you tell me that what I'm about to say is another episode, and that's totally fine. The Because when I start going down this rabbit hole, right? Like, okay, well, I want to grow, I want to hit these certain goals for whatever reason. Um, my mind quickly goes to, okay, like I don't think, at least right now, I can't see myself hitting like say 65 and like doing nothing, right? Like so like I need something to be doing. I maybe won't be working as much as I am now. But when I think of like our model and like consulting, training, knowledge work, even if you are consulting, like I don't consulting is not going anywhere. Like agency, services, I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. It's been around for decades. And it's like I know that like I feel good that like I can hang my hat on something like should I need to like create income. But like when I start to think of 15 years from now, 20 years from now, if all of my income is tied to my brain, like aka like intellectual property is being monetized in some way, shape, or form, I I don't know. For some reason, I'm like, I feel a little concerned about that. And like, so even consulting and being behind the scenes of another person's business, it's like, I mean, yes, I think I'm interested in it. I'm pursuing that path. But like, how can we actually decouple in such a knowledge worker economy? How can we decouple our income from intellectual property? Is it really just investing? Like one of my new local friends who just moved here, he owns a SaaS company and he has like a portfolio of SaaS companies. Obviously not knowledge work. It's like SaaS. He's not doesn't have to hop on, YouTube or anything like that. They build a business, has really, almost an 8-figure business and just one of the SaaS companies. And he was like, I had this conversation with him on Monday and he was like, yeah, like everything you're saying is like agencies, consulting, all of that stuff. Like, and this is obviously take a grain of salt. There's other people have different opinions. These are all going to be your cash vehicles. And he's like, to me, he's like, you probably don't want to be going to launch a ton of other businesses or be supporting a ton of other businesses. You probably just want to create as much cash flow as you can and then put it into these investments that are, someone else's active income and your passive income, a la like commercial real estate or the like multifamily where you kind of get involved in like, hey, 50 people come together to put together this multifamily unit, and you're one of many investors, and kind of like this group investment model that pays dividends, possibly just angel investing in other companies where you're like a couple percentage points and they might actually have an exit because it's like an exitable thing versus say like an agency, which yes, they're exitable, but the percentage wise not going to be that great in most of them. And that just got me thinking too. It's like, okay, well, maybe my learning time and my study time that's going to set me up for the next 20 years is actually learning skills of investing, not acquiring businesses, for example.
I think it depends what you're optimizing for, though, right? So, like, if the goal is, in 20 years, I want to be doing as little work as possible and not tie my income to my effort or my intellectual property, and I want to make as much money as possible, then yeah, you're probably right. Like, invest
Mm.
in real estate, invest in the stock market, like, put your money in sound, solid, long-term investments that can pay income and dividends and earn a yield without your effort or your IP. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
If, on the other hand, like, I'm not opposed to all those things, I think what I'm optimizing for more than income or passive income, if you will, is interesting work. Like,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I have a high need to be, like, intellectually
Creative.
stimulated and engaged, right? And so,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I want the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I also think the money's gonna be there no matter what. And so, I'm more interested in, who can I work with that's interesting? What projects look cool? What's going to help me refine and expand my skill set? What's going to make me a more potent business owner, entrepreneur, human being? And that's going to send you down a completely different path, right? That's not investing in real estate. And obviously the two are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, totally,
right?
totally. Yeah, and that's a great point. Everything that I said, I definitely overlooked the fact that, I mean, part of the reason why I'm going through some of the things that I shared on last episode, like this evolution, redesign, if you will, is because I kind of, in some ways, I'm like, my next level is going to require new skills, like new skill acquisition. And so I need to put myself in environments where I'm forced to learn those things and put things into practice. So, like, working with clients one on one, recodifying different systems to like hand off to somebody where I'm not the face. Like, I'm already kind of in some of that, like, ooh, like I'm creatively challenged again. And there's a level of fulfillment in that uh was missing for sure, like to stay sharp. And I am anchoring it against the next 5 to 10 years for me, outside of just continuing to grow what we have, is how do I learn more, expand my knowledge and experience and understanding of more general business investing and any other skills that are associated to that, to open up some new potential doors. So yeah, that creative stimulation is super important for me. While I know for some others, like they could totally just operate like they're not as like their need for creativity is not as
Yeah.
high. Um,
Yeah. It's a
but
very
I'm
personal, it's a
more
very
I
personal
feel like I'm
thing.
more artist than business person in many cases.
See, I think a big caveat to this conversation though is here's a hot take. I think you have to earn the right to have this conversation. I don't know many people, and I'm sure they're out there. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I
Yeah.
don't know many people that have built considerable businesses, like 7 figures plus, that were not on the back of a very strong personal brand. In consulting,
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah,
advisory,
for sure.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you run a SaaS
100%.
business, different story, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
within this scope, I just don't know of anybody, right? For obvious reasons, right? Because if a consulting advisory business is driven by the expertise is contained in individuals and human beings, right?
Totally.
So, so I want to make that kind of cautionary note because I'm thinking, what do we do with our clients? We
Mhm.
turn them into thought leaders, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you don't hire a consultant unless you can engage with their expertise somehow, somewhere for free on social media or on their website and determine that they have the expertise that you need to solve a problem, right?
Right.
Now, and the fact is we get a lot of pushback from people. Well, I don't want to be the face and I want to sell this thing. And I'm like, you have no business even entertaining the idea of selling anything because you have nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. Oh, totally,
optimize
yeah.
for revenue first, right? And then maybe one day you could back out and sell it, but that's, you have to earn the right to have that conversation. So you and I are sitting around talking about, do we want to be famous? And the reality is, we had to achieve a certain level of fame or notoriety in order to even earn the right to have this conversation.
100%. Yeah, great caveat. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty sure we talked about this on an episode. I know I did a YouTube video on it. It's like, if you're in this line of work, aka you're listening to our podcast, consulting, agency, training, coaching, the like you have to be a marketer, you have to be a salesperson. Like, because if you think you're gonna build a successful business and someone else is gonna do both of those things for you, they might as well do it for themselves because that's where all of the money comes from. Like, and so if you've been holding back on that because you don't want to be the face, it's like, well, then you also might want to consider a different profession, unfortunately. Like, or learn, like, you got to learn the skills, find someone that's willing to do it, which is going to be hard, like, and very unlikely, or just do something different. But yes, the level of conversation and it's funny, even my friend who I was chatting with that kind of sparked this whole thing. He was like, he made a couple times the comments like, yeah, like people like us were like very fortunate to be in this position to even be like discussing this in the first place. Because we've gone through enough to get here. So yeah, I do think that that's important. So
Well, this
beware.
we see this all the time, right? People come to us and they go, "Wow, I don't want to do the marketing myself. I don't want to sell myself." And they're earlier stage. They haven't earned the right to even have that conversation. I just want to delegate this. I want to hire somebody. I want to find someone to figure this out. And I'm like, if I could solve your marketing and sales problem, and all you did was fulfillment, I would never partner with you. I would just
Totally.
hire you.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
business now. If I sell the marketing and sales, because sometimes people will say, well, they'll be like, "Oh, well, why don't you partner with us?" I'm like, "For what? If I'm going to solve the
Yeah.
problem for you, that's my business. You're my employee. We
Yeah.
ain't
Yeah.
partners, right?" Because
Right.
fulfillment, I can hire anybody to do fulfillment. You might think you're a special snowflake. The
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
is, there's 10 or 15 or 20 more people out there like you I could hire if I had the sales and marketing solved. That's the real challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'd have the money to pay for top talent.
Early stage, if you're not solving for marketing and sales yourself as the founder, you're in big trouble. Now, yeah, you could get to the point where you've earned the right to have the conversation about, can I back out and not be the face, and can I bring on a team, and are there other ways to bring in revenue without me being the front and center and all the material? Yeah, you get to that point. I'm not, frankly, there.
No, not am I. And I mean, and it's funny because I mean, I talk to people. I was talking to someone yesterday that I mean, they're at like 25K a month, and they're like talking about, uh, you know, having this business run without them and be sellable. And I was like, I mean, I know you probably won't listen to me when like, but go watch the most recent video of Hormozy or whoever when he talks about Gym Launch was worth nothing because it was tied to his face, even though they were doing, 30 million a year or whatever. And it took 3 years to remove himself, get it running without him, to the point where it ran long enough without him that it demonstrated to potential buyers that it was valuable. And it required a lot of work and a lot of investment. And of the agency, at least the people that I know, like the agency owners that I have a friend who works with agencies that try to sell. And, she says, she's like, the interesting thing about agencies is like you kind of have to be at least obviously get to a million before you're going to be able to sell. But most people get to a million and it's still not sellable. And they're so burnt out and exhausted that they're not willing to put in the next 2 to 3 years to make it sellable. And so they either just shut it down or they take next to nothing for it. I have a buddy of mine who got an offer. His family of three. He got an offer for this business that is the business that moved me to Colorado. And it's a service slash like lead generation agency, but there's software that kind of made it a little more enticing. Even still, he could exit now, and he's like kind of done with it. But if he just stayed in the business for 3 more years, like the profit that it like 3 to 4 years of the profit that he already gets from it would equate to what he gets paid out in one lump sum, which is sort of terrifying because he's 43 years old, 44 years old, has 3 kids, not even in college yet. So like there's still a lot of expenses that are coming his way. To have to like rebuild a business to get to that level from nothing is equally as hard. And so he's
Yeah.
like, I don't even think I'm going to take it because I don't even know what I would do next. uh, and so even like the multiples wouldn't even make sense for a lot of us and service providers. And yeah, the effort to get it to be that way, you know, kind of requires you to do some of those scalable things that maybe have been part of the resistance so far, like scaling out an outbound sales team so that sales isn't dependent upon your face. Because if it's dependent upon anybody's face or just paid ads, the business is going to be less valuable. Like, and if your face is all over the product, like it's not as valuable. And so it's just like, man, like there's even to make it sellable to the point where you'd probably accept a deal, you're going to have to do a lot of things that are probably in direct conflict with the way in which you want to grow in the first place, as I'm thinking out loud, which then becomes, well, then how do I make this thing as much of a cash generation machine as possible while having fun? You know, back to the like the personal fulfillment piece.
Yeah, I mean that's my game in a nutshell. I mean, I get that there are some people who are like serial entrepreneurs. They just want to build one thing after another. And I reserve the right to change my mind on this. I don't think it's me.
Totally.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think I have it in me to do this again. I think ride this sucker out for as long as I can. I spent some of the best years of my life in my 30s building this company, right? And I don't know, as I head into my 40s, I just don't know that I have it in me to put in that kind of effort and take on that kind of risk and like ride that roller coaster. And I reserve the right to change my mind. Maybe something will entice
Totally.
me
Yeah.
enough to. But right now, I'm just like, no, like I just want to hang out with my kids.
So so that was another piece we can kind of that was another piece on this conversation. It was like the waves of motivation of like um the guy that my friend that I was talking to, he's like, man, like I know I could go do this. He's like, I just I don't know if I'm motivated to like work much harder than I'm working right now. And he's like, I don't like that can acknowledge that. He's like, and I don't know if that's because I have young kids. I don't know if that's because of, he had a tough situation with business the last couple of years that like kind of took a lot of energy out of him. Like, or if it's just like, hey, we're approaching, well, he's younger than me, but like, is this maybe like an early midlife crisis, that I'm feeling of some sorts? Like, I don't know. It's super interesting to be like, man, like I want to do more and achieve more, but I also am very aware of I'm willing to work harder than I am right now, and this might evolve, but like not that much harder than I'm working right now. At least in this current state.
Yeah, I I don't have enough life experience to be able to say there's a lot of confidence, but just personal reflection is like I'm late 30s, very late 30s, heading into my 40s, and I just
Very,
don't
very late
see
30s.
myself. I turned 39 in October. I just don't see myself putting in the kind of time and effort
Mm.
that into my career at large that I put in my 20s and my early
Oh,
30s.
well, yeah.
I
Yeah.
just I just don't see it.
I feel you on that. So if you kind of had to unpack and kind of look at what we were just chatting about, rich, rich and famous versus, I mean, I don't know why would anyone would choose poor and obscure, first of all. So the fact that you gave that as an option,
Simple
but
life.
like
Simple
rich,
si poor and obscure is a simple life.
I mean, it doesn't that I don't think that that's mutually exclusive either. Like you could have a really difficult, complex life just because you're poor. So the real
Sure,
debate
when I say
was,
poor, what I
would you
really mean is,
rather,
like, bills paid, but
yeah,
not a lot of
like
excess.
the real debate was rich and famous or rich and nobody knows who you are. That was like those are the real options because I do care about money. I want to make money uh enough. Who's that one? Well, there's one famous quote, I forget who it's from. I think it was from a president or something of like, you know, the guy was talking and he's like, "Well, he'll have one thing I have one thing he'll never have, and that's enough." And it's like knowing what enough is for you. Like I am in the realm of having enough. Um, I have a little bit of ways to go, but like I don't think I need to exert that much more energy or work that many more hours to like achieve that. Like, and I'm not in a race to get to it. Like it's within reach. Um,
One
and
of
so
my
yeah, like
mentors
what
once
is
told
that?
me that there's only a couple of reasons to go grow and scale beyond $3 to $5 million a year in a business. One is passion, the second is ego.
Who said that?
One of my mentors, old
Mm.
mentors. You either got to like just care enough about the cause and making an impact to do
Yeah.
it, or you got to want to have a bigger company and your ego's got to be invested enough in that outcome to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's true.
I feel it. Yeah. So TLDR, Rishon Anonymous is okay. You have to earn the right to be having this conversation. And if you're getting started, early stage growth, under $500,000, $1 million a year, you probably need to be the face of the company and be selling and marketing because nobody else is going to. That is your responsibility, or else it would be their business. Keep it as simple as possible. When you get to a higher level, you can start having conversations of diversification, if you will. Maybe considerations of what type of personality you are, like and what stage of life you're in. Hey, if you're turning 50 and you're thinking that you're going to take your 50K a month business and exit, is that the best move based on your other life goals? Like maybe it's just, hey, how do I figure out how to optimize this for fun and as much cash flow as possible, sort of thing. So I think, some healthy bullets from this discussion for you, whether you're just getting started or, you've already earned the right, so to speak.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your intel and your perspective, because it's I just posted on Facebook in this book that I just read, they say one of the best ways to kind of talk to yourself is to talk to others, which is what I love about podcasting. But you only ever really have a few true friendships where you could actually go deep enough in that level, like that type of conversation. And I put on that post, I can count the number of people on two hands that I would talk out loud with to the level in which I'm talking to myself. You are on that list. And
there's 9 others.
Now
I'm jealous. What the hell?
It's really just over. It's like, it just breaks into, there might be 7. The regular, you're one of the regulars, though. Okay. You're one of the regulars.
You have podcasts with all them too?
Jesus. Yeah, no, I do not. There's 3 people that are regulars, and you're one of the regulars.
All right. Well, I'm flattered. I also love how this started with I hate social media and ended with I posted on Facebook. That's
yes. Yeah. The irony here is abundant.
Awesome.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. I would love to know personally what your biggest takeaway was from this. If you could take a screenshot, tag either myself or Ahmed on Instagram or any of the socials that we're hopefully not going to be on to acknowledge, since we're trying to be off of social media. Again, irony ensues. But we would love and appreciate that. And if you haven't given us a rating and review on the all the places, iTunes, etc., we would appreciate that as well. And we'll catch you next time.